Hello everyone once again to Packs and Recreation, and today we're going to use the fact that Doctor Who is all over the place with the universes beyond and talk about the Warhammer 40k commander decks. So these beauties right here, beauties if you like Warhammer 40k. If you don't and you prefer Magic the Gathering to be pristine, then sorry that this happened to you. But overall, my personal opinion is that Universes Beyond, if they stay on commander decks, which is like casual, it should be okay because whatever, it's like secret layers. Now, if the cards appear on a standard, like the Transformer cards on the Brothers War, now with that I have kind of an issue, but that's beyond the point. So today we're going to talk about these four decks. So the Forces of the Imperium deck, the Tyrannid Swarm, the Ruinous Powers, and Necron Dynasties. So before we kick it off, I want to address the sleeves that I'm going to use for these decks. Maybe I'm not going to sleeve them on the video itself because the video will be super long, but I want to tell you a little bit of my process with this. So for example, for the Forces of the Imperium, White, Blue, Black, Inquisitor, Grey Fax. So this is the art itself. Obviously this is not the card, right? It's a cardboard placeholder, but this is the alternate art. You see there that one of the colors that really just shines in this card is gold, because that's kind of the whole thing with the Inquisitors. So for this deck, we're going to use Dragon Shield Golds, obviously Dragon Shield. Why Dragon Shields? Because always Dragon Shield, see? Gold, perfect fit. Now for the Ruinous, today I'm not working properly. The Ruinous Powers with Abaddon the Despoiler. You can see that he's kind of over the place. He's red, black, blue, and blue energy sword. Kind of, I don't know, don't hate me, Warhammer 40k players, please. But the whole clothing, the whole theme, and if you look at the card, I'm going to go with copper with this one. Why copper? Because it kind of just resonates with the armor itself and with the commander. I think you can also go like crimson because of the cape, but in the card itself, you don't get much crimson. You get more of a copper vibe, and that also is true if you look at the other cards. So again, the co-commander has red wings, so crimson is a really strong candidate. For the Swarm and the Tyrannid Swarm, given the colors on the Swarm Lord, I'm going with Crypt, which is basically the color of the bones, and well, a Crypt really fits where the Swarm Lord is going to be. And from Necron Dynasties, honestly, you can go anywhere with this. You can go silver, you can go metal, you can go black, you can go whatever. I'm going with slate just because, see, it's like metallic stone kind of thing. And I think it really fits. Obviously, copper could also be a good fit, but sadly the copper tone in these sleeves is too shiny for this. So I guess that slate is kind of what we want. So let's start with the Forces of the Imperium deck. This is the white packaging, not to be confused with the normal packaging of the commander decks. Now they have another different packaging for March of the Machine, and they will have another different package for the Commander Legends set, but I digress. So let's see what's included here, and let's talk a little bit about the deck itself. So if it wants to cooperate and come with me, apparently no, it wants to die. So come with me if you want to die, it wants to die. Just because of my nature, I don't want to just rip it off, and that's why it's being so difficult to open. Like, I'm not making, jeez, not making this up. This should be like a, obviously they want me, I'm going to shred this regardless, but why is this so difficult? Jeez. God. Okay. So See, like nothing is squashed here. It's just that the box is like that. I don't know. So the deck is here. Very nice packaging. A piece of paper that fell here for some reason. Life counter, very nice with the art, with the alternate art. The insert that we're going to check in a second. The deck itself, the tokens and the plastic commander. A deck box that no one uses, but we know that if they remove it, we're going to be sad about it. Very nice deck box. You just do this, there you go. I mean, nice for what it is. Obviously, there are better options, even if they are Ultra Pro or something. Oh, with the Warhammer symbol. Very nice. Very nice attention to detail. You can see that Wizards is like talking to Games Workshop, like, don't worry, bro, we're not going to misrepresent you. So, separator, magic separator. So one for Warhammer, one for Magic. Very nice. And then tokens, which are just Magic and Warhammer tokens, because why not? And another card separator, and for the Emperor. That's the tagline of this deck. Now, let's see the insert first. You know that I love inserts. I'm the only person that loves them and actually looks at them. Playing the deck. So it explains how to play the deck with the primary commander or the secondary commander, which is Marnius Calgar, or Marnius Calgar. And it even explains the magic colors. You can even see that they went extra mile, because they know that a bunch of people that just play Warhammer are going to open these decks. And they explain like what these colors mean for newcomers and why is the Imperium white, blue, and black aligned. The Imperium's absolute fealty to the God Emperor and their rigid devotion to order led them to be white aligned. Secretive Inquisitors and the drive to exert control over knowledge is very blue. Finally, black comes from how willingly the Imperium acts to dispatch anyone who stands in their way and their worship of the God Emperor. And the color explanation, which is something very nice. And on the back, a little bit of backstory for Inquisitor Greyfax and Marnius Calgar, which you can pause to read on your own pace. If you want me to read it in an ASMR matter, like, hey, Marnius Calgar is a genetically enhanced space marine and has been the chapter master of the Ultramarines for centuries. If you want that, leave a comment. So that's the insert. Now for the tokens, as always, I like to see the tokens first, because that kind of tells you what cards can you expect on the deck if you don't know them already. I mean, the deck list is very public, and these decks are already some months old. So, the plastic card for Inquisitor Greyfax, legendary creature, Human Inquisitor, 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 black, Vigilance. It has unquestionable wisdom. Other creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance, and hunt for heresy. It costs 1 and you need to tap. Tap target creature and opponent controls, investigate. 3/3. Very nice. So, tokens. Soldier. There is a Space Marine Devastator. Soldier. There is a Sephirim, or Sephirim, I guess it's Sephirim, a soldier. There is an Ultramarines Honor Guard, a soldier. There is a Sicarian Infiltrator, another soldier, at least the arts are very diverse. It's a Vanguard Suppressor, 1 more soldier. There is an Arco Flagellant, Astartes Warrior, is a robot. This creature can block. Astartes Warrior is a robot. Astartes Warrior is a token legendary creature demon, Cherubile or Kerubile. Astartes Warrior, clue, and an extra card, Epistolary Librarian. For 2, 1 white and 1 blue, is a creature, Astartes Wizard. Veil of Time. Whenever a Epistolic Librarian attacks, you may cast a spell with mana value X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Okay. So what's the deal with this deck? You're going to see in a second. It's all about the mechanics of the commander. Normally that's the case, that's why it's called commander, but the deck, actually you can change the commander for something else and it kind of still works, to be honest, but no need, because the Warhammer 40k precons are pretty much very good decks right off the box. So you will see that she makes you investigate and other creatures give you +1/+0. So the whole mechanic here is to create a bunch of creatures and make them very stronger. So the sub-commander, the secondary commander, is the same. Double strike, and whenever one or more tokens enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So the whole deal, and the other option, the ability is to create a 2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with vigilance. So the whole thing here is that you swarm, even though this is not the deck from the Swarm Lord, but you create a bunch of creatures. So it's a very wide deck on that regard. By the way, you will see that in these decks, most of the cards are new. There are few reprints, and most of the boring stuff is just, classic commander staples at this point. But you will see that the whole deal, by the way, nice treatment. The whole deal of these cards is that, you see, squad, a bunch of squad mechanics. So you create groups of creatures. For example, squad 2 for a Sephirim. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may pay 2 any number of times. When this creature enters the battlefield, create that many tokens that are copies of it. That's why we have a Sephirim token. And a bunch of cards have either squad or a variant of a squad. So the whole idea is to summon stuff. If you want to summon them for cheap, you can just create them as is. But if you really want to pull and push your strategy, is just go there, create creatures, just attack, just swarm them, even though this is not a Swarm Lord. Nice looking saga. And again, you see, create stuff, sacrifice the creature, draw 2 cards. This deck works better against multiple enemies. So that's kind of the vibe that the deck is going for. It's you versus the world, which is kind of the theme on the whole Emperor, God Emperor philosophy. I think that flavor-wise, these cards and these decks are right on the spot, which makes you think, why isn't Wizards like this all the time? Like with the Warhammer 40k cards, these are very flavorful and very... I am not a pro on Warhammer 40k. I know something about it from playing video games with the 40k theme, but overall, the flavor on these cards, like how the mechanics match and the colors match whatever in this case the Inquisitors and the whole God Emperor side of the conflict, it's something that we don't see every day from Wizards. And it's kind of weird that they respect more the Universes Beyond properties than they do their own properties, because these ones are very flavorful. The Lord of the Rings ones are very flavorful. I don't know about the Doctor Who ones, we will see, but I can bet that they are going to be very flavorful and actually accurate. And with this one and the Lord of the Rings ones, it's crazy how accurate they are. Like, you can really tell that they put all their effort there, which is what becomes even more shocking to me, that when it comes to their own stuff, they are not as faithful to the characters or the lore or or even the stories, and looking at how the whole conflict of March of the Machines ended, which, as usual, I don't know how every country has their own expression, but you know how the saying goes, nothing but the best for your own house, right? Like for people of the outside, you give them the best. In your own house, you don't try that hard. Or the current meme, Mom, can we have properly done cars with good lore and good mechanics? And your mom says, no, we have that at home. And it's like, no, actually we don't. So as you can see at the cards as I'm showing them, the whole theme here, and you will see that this deck is great for that. It's just swarming. The problem is that it's a 3-color deck, so white, blue, black. And here is the problem. Like up to this point, you had stuff like the Tranquil Cove and stuff like that. It's like, oh, it gives you one or the other. Like some of the normal cards that have been reprinted, but with Warhammer art. But now it's just basic lands, which is amazing because those are basic Warhammer lands, even though they repeat themselves a lot, which is sad. They could just do like at least 2 different arts. But like all of these basic lands for that deck, that's the only choke point of this deck. Because you will see that, well, at the very least, most of the cards in this deck, whenever they go for the squad mechanic costs you 2 generics, so it doesn't really matter what color it is. But if you really want to jump between the 3 colors, you will see that sometimes you can get choked. So this deck is very good out of the box and you know, very simple to go. Like the squad mechanic is something that anyone can go with, and it's very flavorful. But I have to warn you, if you are going to play this deck against someone with other precons, likely you are very well served and you will clean the floor with them to a certain degree, depending on the precon. But if you are going to play with that friend of yours that has all the good decks and has like a very well done and like customized deck, you may want to upgrade the mana base. That's the one thing. Obviously, if you look online, you will see some lists that add like a lot of different cards and a lot of stuff, but the mana base is the problem here. You need to change most of those basics for 3-color lands or fetch lands or something along those lines, whatever is cheaper to you, but just to give you options in colors, because otherwise you're just gonna choke. And is with cards that you can't use, plus the surplus cost of the squad mechanics. So very good deck. I like the color combinations. I like the theme. Not sure if my favorite though. It's my favorite in terms of theme, I will say. But let's see how it goes with the next one. So the Ruinous Powers Commander deck, red, black, blue. So let's see if this one wants to be open a lot easier and collaborate. There's a part of me that pains a little each time I need to like bend these boxes, because I mean, it's the box, it's worthless to a degree, but you know, that's the eternal debate. What's the good cardboard and what's the bad cardboard, right? Like the cards are the good one, the boxes are whatever, we don't give a rat ass about the boxes, but aren't they all the same cardboard? Like, let the galaxy burn. These ones are the ones that love chaos. So you have some Warhammer icons and some icons from the faction, which I'm going to assume is the Chaos faction. I don't remember the name of so Astartes Warriors? Chaos Ascendant, maybe? I don't know. Sorry, not a master of Warhammer 40k, which actually shames me a lot, but deck, tokens, life counter, separator, and deck box. The deck box is, as you may expect, same logic. Let's go there, boom, boom, boom. And with the symbol right there. Lovely. Sometimes I wish, I know that I am alone at this, but sometimes I wish that Wizards will sell like a premium commander deck or something that includes like a proper deck box. Maybe it can be done by Ultra Pro, I don't care, but so that you have like a neat package that fits 100 plus, so 100 double sleeve. So life counter, very nice looking. And now let's go with the insert, because the importance of the inserts cannot be understated. Play in the deck the Runus power. So you have primary commander, Abaddon the Spoiler, and you have the secondary commander, which is Belacor the Dark Master. And the explanation of the colors, and what is Chaos? So this is the Chaos faction. Okay, I wasn't that wrong. Blue, black, and red align. Chaos itself is as red as it gets. Unchecked, emotion, impulse, and randomness are all traits strongly aligned with red. It also captures the bloodlust of Khorne, and Slaanesh hedonism, the corrupting pestilence of Nurgle, and the death it creates associated with black, while Tzeng's manipulation of fate and transformation are both undeniably blue. So they put blue because blue is useful. So Abaddon the Death Spoiler. Abaddon was the first captain of the Sons of Horus, one of the Space Marine legions that rebelled against the Emperor in the galaxy-wide civil war known as the Horus Heresy. And Belacor the Dark Master. Nice. No, with the tokens. Something that I love about this is that, well, 1 second, let's see. Abaddon the Death Spoiler costs 2, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red. Legendary creature, Astartes Warrior. Trample, Mark of the Chaos Ascendant. During your turn, spells you cast from your hand with mana value X or less have Cascade, where X is the total amount of your life, your opponent have lost this turn. Under his rule, there is but one creed. Chaos shall reign. Chaos, Final Fantasy Origins. Plague Bearer of the Nurgle. And a Spawn. Nice. Another Plague, another Spawn, another Plague, and Astartes Warrior. Kind of all converted and stuff. Another Astartes Warrior. You can tell that you're going to generate a bunch of these. Spawn. Not the most varied tokens, you can tell. Blue Horror. Demon Horror. Nice. Spawn. Blue Horror. And the extra card. Exalted Flamer of Tzink. Tzinkt? I don't know. Sorry if anyone knows how to pronounce it. This is a little bit like Cthulhu, right? Like, that's technically how you pronounce it, but you're not supposed to know how to pronounce Cthulhu because that's the joke. It's an eldritch thing. So I'm going to go with that justification for myself and say that's why I don't know how to pronounce the Warhammer names. Sorcerer's Inspiration. At the beginning of your upkeep, return an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Fire of Tzink. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Exalted Flamer of Tzink deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that's on the token field. Very nice. And you can already guess where this deck is going to be. Just on the commander alone. So let's check that very, very quickly. So if I can open this, because I'm infamous for being unable to open stuff. Okay. Let's see. The commander, which we already read, Abaddon the Despoiler, and now Belacor, the Dark Master. 3, 1 white, 1 black, 1 red, legendary creature, Demon Noble, flying, Prince of Chaos. When Belacor, the Dark Master, enters the battlefield, you draw X cards and you lose X life, where X is the number of demons you control. And Lord of Torment. Whenever another demon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. So you can tell where this is going. Regarding this deck, so there is kind of a difference between the two commanders. One is all about cascading, and the other is about doing damage and summoning demons. And the deck, as you're about to see, has a bunch of demons and things around that creature type. However, the whole play with this deck is cascading. And that's why the commander is so important, because the commander says on your turn, a spell you cast from your hand with mana value X or less have cascade. So you cascade that amount of times and you get stuff. Ironically, with Be'lakor, so with this one, you don't have as much randomness, because it says when it enters, you draw X, well, that's the number of demons you control, so you know how many demons you have on your hand. And the moment you keep adding demons into the field, you do damage. So that's kind of dependent on luck, because this deck has a bunch of mechanisms for you to just bring more demons into the field, or just, play around. Most of the creatures in this deck are demons, so that's kind of the strength. As a secondary commander is nice, but it's not that useful, because it's very expensive. If it was a little bit cheaper, you could actually at least kill it voluntarily 2 or 3 times, so that you could bring it again and use its primary ability of when it enters the field. Obviously, there are some cards here and some cards that you can actually add to this deck if you want to, even though they will break the visual theme. That's the Horus Heresy. That will give you some more possibilities of like fetching, or at least flashing your creature so that it bounce your creature so it comes back, and every time it enters the battlefield, it triggers. But the problem is that the main commander is fun to play. Like, this deck is very fun to play, but is as fun as it is opening boosters. Meaning, opening boosters is fun, and we all like opening boosters, but as we all know, and we repeat every time I crack some boosters, buy singles, in the sense that boosters are fun, but it's the same thing as gambling. You open stuff, maybe you get cool stuff, maybe you don't, and it's the fun of the unknown. You're basically betting. There is no problem with that, besides the fact that, well, for the same amount of money that it will take you to get to a card that you want, you very likely just buy the singles that you actually want. I mean, it's fun, but it's not very effective. And that's what happens with this deck if you use the main commander. The secondary commander is kind of boring, to be honest, but the main commander is fun, but it's basically random as hell, because you cascade, and if you actually get cool stuff, then you are ahead of the curve. If you get something that is meh, you feel robbed to a degree, right? So they even changed Soul Ring. Like, this is amazing. So that's the big problem with this deck, is that you are at the hands of luck. And you may be thinking, well, aren't we always at the hands of luck in Magic the Gathering? Because the deck is constructed to a certain degree, but then you are at mercy with luck, and then the cards that you pull are the ones that make or break your strategy. And I will say, you are right. That's why the tutors are so expensive, because it's a way of circumventing luck. But in this scenario, it's like twice, because it's the luck of your deck plus the luck of cascading. And you can feel robbed from time to time. But at the same time, you can make the other people feel robbed when you pull crazy stuff by cascading. So this deck is, I think, it's kind of the more inconsistent to a certain degree of the 4, but at the same time, it's the funniest. Not funniest in the sense, it's funny, but I mean, like, it's the one that will bring you most joy, just because, well, in terms, once again, it's a very good match between flavor and mechanics. They are like Abaddon and company are all about chaos. That's the name of the faction. So this deck feels like chaos in the sense that it can be anything. You just pull stuff from your deck and it appears on the field. It's kind of crazy. You can see that once again, the mana base is kind of shit because it has a lot of basic lands, which is not bad by default, but you will see and feel yourself that sometimes you drag your feet and you want to go faster, or you want to get specific colors, which is the problem with some of these cards that you want to summon, right? Like, say, like some of the coolest cards, you won't have the currency to summon. The deck is kind of counting, because everything is very expensive. The deck is kind of counting on you on cascading everything. So that's kind of how they leverage the thing, is that they want you to cascade and the mana will come eventually. But the problem is that you need the mana for your commander at the very least, and your commander is not properly cheap and it has 3 colors. So as it happened with the first deck, my only advice here will be, it's a very good deck. You can play with it right off the box. It will be fun. But if you really want it to be the next level, like one step ahead, the one thing you need to do is you need to just go above and beyond. You need to multiply your mana possibilities by adding like tri-lands or fetch lands or something. Same logic here. Like, you just need more variety, more options. You don't want to just get an island. You want something that will give you an island or a swamp or a mountain, because those are the colors of the deck. So in that same fashion, let's go with Tyrannid Swarm, which is on the other side of the spectrum. But all 3 decks that we reviewed so far contain blue to a degree. And the first one was, let's see with the commanders, the first one was white, blue, and black. And the second one, Abaddon the Despoiler, was blue, black, and red. So blue and black have been present in this. And now we have green as a new color, but blue is still ever present, being that these decks kind of overlap to each other, which is something very nice because it mirrors to a degree what happens with the factions in Warhammer 40k. So let's see. Same logic here. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, which reminds me that I haven't shown the back of the other boxes. So in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only dark, the forces of chaos, that's the name of and the Imperium. Those are the backs in case you want to read that or check that or whatever. And now for something completely different. The Tyrannid Swarm is the deck that's, and I will say this right as I'm opening, right? Like, this is the deck that is the most boring, in my humble opinion. Why is it the most boring? Well, it's not bad. In terms of financial value, the value has diluted a lot since these decks were released, but the proportions are still kind of the same. This is the one that is less valuable, and at the same time, is the one that is the most boring to play. And I think it has something to do with the value of the cards itself, just because the cards are not that creative, right? Like, I bet that some of you are just screaming at the screen saying like, well, just rip that box apart. It's like, I'm trying, my bro, but I can't. The hive mind hungers, the symbol of the Tyrannids, and a divider. Now for the back, a Tyrannid divider, Tyrannid deck box, which I can just remove and show with the alternate art. Very nice. Same logic with that magic symbol. And you can tell that those symbols, if Wizards went all in and made like 4 standard sets, those will be the symbols from those sets. So tokens, cards, life counter, nice looking. It's a shame that I personally never use this, so it's kind of a shame, but whatever. Let's talk about the insert. And after the insert, I will tell you why I think that this deck is the most boring of all, which, I mean, it's subjective, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be your experience, but... So how to play the deck. These are some of the directions, the colors, the primary commander, the Swarm Lord, and the secondary commander, Magus Lucia Kane, or Lucia Kane. The colors, and why are the Tyrannids red, green, and blue aligned? The Tyrannids are an unstoppable force of instinct and ferocity, 2 highly green traits. They answer to the primal will of the hive mind, following their basest impulses to a degree that can only be red-aligned. Finally, the psychic hive mind's absolute control over the great bloods great brutes, and the machinations of the genestealer cults add a splash of blue to these killing machines. So everything is a splash of blue. And regarding the creatures themselves, so the Swarm Lord, the Tyranids are a swarm of monstrous predators who sweep through the galaxy like a plague of locusts, stripping every planet in their path of the biomass and growing new warrior creatures to attack the next planet. And Magus Lucia Kane, or Lucia, but this is Lucia. I will fight you on that. Don't you love it when sometimes they don't close because you... Okay, right there. There was a technical difficulty. See? Tragedy. No one cares about the insert, but still, to me, that's a tragedy. Okay, there you go. So, Warhammer 40k. And now, for the tokens. Again, with the tokens, you can have an idea of what's ahead for us. The commander is the Swarm Lord. For 3, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 red. Legendary creature, Tyrannid. Rapid regeneration. The Swarm Lord enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it for each time you have cast your commander from the command zone this turn. So at least it comes more expensive but stronger every time you kill it. And Xenos Cunning. Whenever a creature you control with a counter on it dies, draw a card. So you can tell that the whole deal, again, it's a shame that it's so expensive, but again, it's a 5/5, I guess, so. The whole thing is that they will die and come back and be more expensive, but that's like a okay ability to have. Each time you have cast your commander from the command zone, so it needs to be cast, so it needs to actually be killed or something. It's not like you can just flash it or anything. And Xenos Cunning is nice, but because it gives you a card, but it's kind of meh. We will see the secondary commander. A Tyrannid Warrior. Again, Tyrannid and Tyrannid Warrior. Tyrannid Warrior. Another Tyrannid, but this is a 5/5 Tyrannid. Nice. A Tyrannid Gargoyle. Very nice. There's a bunch of Tyrannids, as you can imagine, because this is basically the Swarm from StarCraft. Or StarCraft is basically the Swarm from Warhammer 40k. I don't know which one came first. Likely Warhammer, maybe. Yeah, because Warhammer I think is as old as, or kind of as old as Magic, so there is that. So the deck itself. Why do I say this deck is kind of boring? Well, you can already tell by the commander, because the commander is meh. It's okay, don't get me wrong, but it feels like disconnected from the rest of the mechanics, because again, whenever it dies, it comes back, which okay, but it's expensive. It's not like it's super cheap or anything. And then drawing a card each time something dies. The secondary commander, it has Spiritual Leader. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. This is very, very useful for this deck. And Psychic Stimulus, you tap and add 2 colorless. When you next cast a spell with X in its mana cost or activate an ability with X in its activation cost this turn, copy that spell or ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So this is one of the rare cases where, yeah, I guess that this is where the flavor kind of got in the way, because the Swarm Lord, I can imagine how it is like an unstoppable beast that it just regenerates and stuff. And yeah, but it's not that nice as a commander card. It's kind of okay. Like, obviously, if you don't have it as commander, it's kind of pointless in your deck because the first skill is not worth it. But again, it's so expensive that are you really going to sacrifice it to let it die so that you can bring it again as a 7/7? I don't know, it doesn't seem worth it. But Lucia really comes the other way around, because this is a deck about +1/+1s. So in this case, it puts, in the case of the Swarm Lord, it puts the +1/+1 counters in itself. But Lucia puts the counters in anything else, and at the beginning of your turn, or the beginning of combat on your turn. So everything benefits from it, plus she is cheaper. Obviously, she's very weak, but that's the whole thing. She's a Magus, she's on the back, just giving support, so I can see her as more of a better commander for this deck, and actually that's how it works when you play the deck. Also, she's kind of commanding in the picture already, so I guess this is the one deck from the 4 where the secondary commander is kind of a better fit for the whole deck, because you can see that you have infection counters, and they basically play like a kind of Phyrexia to a degree, but it has a lot of +1/+1s, +1/+1s. You see, like it's all about like whenever you do this, put a +1/+1, put a +1/+1. Like it's a very basic deck about swarming, which has nothing bad. Like I like decks that go +1/+1. In this case, that's the whole strategy. It's just swarming, which is, well, it's a Swarm Lord, so it makes sense. Like you just call on other creatures, they get stronger between them, like they get +1/+1 counters, and if you have creatures with counters, they do different effects and they do more damage, etc., etc. So that's the whole strategy. Why do I say it's boring? Because, well, it's not the most creative strategy out there. It's kind of very straightforward, and ironically, for some cosmic reason, even though this is the most meh deck in terms of strategies, it, from the 3 multicolor decks in this collection, this is the one that sucks the less in terms of mana base, because not because of the mana itself, which you will see that it has pretty much the same numbers as the others, but it has support cards that help you just ramp, because, you know, it's green, so you have to ramp. See, like, for example, if you will draw a card, you may instead choose a land or a non-land and reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. Put that card into your hand and pull the other cards, so you can actually move faster, because if you're not getting +1/+1s and stuff, you're just ramping, because green is in the house, right? So that's something that the other decks were lacking. This is the only deck that contains green, and that's why the mana base is kind of saved by it, because you have ramping cards. Ironically, the deck from Abaddon, the one from Chaos, just doesn't need a ramp, because you're just doing everything with Chaos, but the Inquisitor deck will have benefit from ramping, but apparently ramping is very much associated with green a lot of times, and, well, if that deck doesn't have green, then it's not bound to happen. You just need to go around with tutors or something, so that, or fetch lands or whatever. In this case, you can still upgrade your mana base, and you will greatly benefit from it. Love it how the Soul Rings are different according to the faction. But see, like, you have tricolor lands, like search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveals them, put one onto the battlefield tab and the other into your hand. Like, this is the type of thing that you need. You might play an additional land this turn, draw a card. Like, see, all the greens that ramp, see, ramp, more. Like, just play around lands or get more stuff from your lands. That's all you need. That's the cool stuff. And that's why this deck doesn't suck as much as the others in terms of mana base. But the mana base is still not great. Obviously, it's still subject to improvements. If you want to change these gigantic amount of lands for some more creative lands, like fetch lands or something along those lines, be my guest. Likely is going to benefit you more than you imagine, and will make the deck very competitive right off the box. Mind you, when I say very competitive, the deck is very competitive already, same as the others, but I mean versus that friend of yours that is just... But I mean that friend of yours, that is just the guy with the level 10 commander decks, right? So last but not least, the monocolor deck. is always interesting when you have a monocolor commander deck, because in theory, it will, by the way, this is the back, the Necrons. This is a black artifact monocolor deck, so it's something that is not very common to see. With monocolor commander decks, always happens the same, which is you always get curious in the sense that it's like, wait, so why is it that we don't, like, normally commander is a format that is slower, and because it's slower, you actually see players trying to go multicolor. So some Necron tokens and Magic the Gathering symbols. These are kind of pointless. They could have just included this because these we know, like we play Magic. But I guess they are aiming for people that never played Magic. So that's why they are kind of showing it right there. Eons have they slumbered. Divider, the placeholder of the card just fell. So insert, tokens, and deck. Life counter, very nice looking. Again, a shame. And the box itself with the dividers. The box from the Necrons. With their symbol, all coolio. Oops, I haven't properly assembled it, but you get the point. I will fix that after the video. So let's go with the insert. This deck is kind of interesting because it's not an unusual combination. Black and artifacts, normally it's blue and artifacts or stuff like that. Black and artifacts is kind of a difficult thing to pull, mostly because we lack the cards, not because of ideas or anything. So how to play the deck? The primary commander is Zarek, the Silent King, and the secondary commander is Imhotep, the Stormlord. Why are the Necrons black aligned? In times long past, the Necrons sacrificed almost everything for the sake of power and ambition. They will do whatever it takes to achieve their goals, conquering even death itself to return and conquer and continue to fight. They believe the galaxy belongs to them and will take it back any means necessary. So, my humble opinion after playing with this deck and, reading the lore, even though this is, I don't want to be mean, but this looks like a graphic card art from box art, or one of the CG, like the videos from like Dungeon Keeper or stuff like that, like early 2000s, late 90s computer games. And Imhotep, the Stormlord. So once the legend suggests, the Necrons were a flesh and blood race known as the Necrontyr. It was the Necrontyr's darkest hour during the reign of Sakaret, the last of the Silent Kings, that the Cthulhu came before the Necrontyr with an offer of aid. And I could be just reading this, but you're here for the cards, not for the insert. I am the only one that cares about the inserts. So, tokens. Why is this deck interesting? Obviously, it always catches your eye. By the way, this is the most expensive deck, not by default, because they all cost the same, but in aftermarket value, even though the value is not that high right now, but at the moment it was crazy. Skareth Zarek, the Silent King, 1 and 3 black, is a legendary artifact creature Necron. It has flying, because why not? And My Will Be Done. Whenever Skareth, the Silent King, attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put an artifact creature card or vehicle card from among these cards mills this way into your hand. So, Necron Warrior and an insect. Necron Warrior and an insect. Another. I see that there is a theme going on here. Not a lot of tokens, apparently, that are necessary. They could at least vary the art and go like 5/5 for this, but they didn't want to go the extra mile, and that saddens me. So the deck. Why is this interesting? Always a mono deck a monocolor deck in Commander is always interesting because the rhythm of a Commander deck or a Commander game is always slower than the normal rhythm of a Magic the Gathering game. So when you play a pre-release or you play Standard for that matter, we don't talk about Modern because it's a lot crazier, and we don't talk about Legacy because we are not rich, but whenever you play Standard or Draft or any sealed format, you kind of need to go with the tides, meaning that, and just let me read this in a second. Imhotep, the Stormlord, 2 and 2 black, legendary creature, legendary artifact creature, Necron. Pharaon. Whenever one or more artifact cards leave your graveyard, create 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. Grand Strategist. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains menace until the end of turn. So you can see right off the box that the two commanders are kind of different, are kind of doing different things, which is very nice, but they play along the themes of the deck. It's not like the Swarmlord that feels kind of meh in its own deck. Like, this is mill, and it's very interesting that it's black artifacts and it's milling, so it's a very good combination. And this is just artifact tribal, which is also interesting. So what I was saying, as I show you the cards in this deck, that for monocolor cards decks, like, that's more common when you are playing Draft or Sealed or Standard or something, because you want the most efficient strategy. You have 20 points of life, you want to get there, you want to score some points, you don't want it to fail, and you want to have the smallest size of deck possible. So you don't want to add many variables. Obviously, the game is balanced in a way that, by the way, you can tell that it has a lot of big-ass creatures, because the whole thing of the deck is mill yourself, get the things that you want into the battlefield, repeat, continue, and win. So, and it's very flavorful because, well, they had to discard their bodies to become like this. So that's kind of the whole play. So in a monocolor deck, you have the advantage of speed and consistency, but in Commander you have 40 points of life, and most of the times you're playing multiplayer. So unless all the 3 other players are attacking you without a rest, very likely that you have time to create a board. Obviously, you don't want to take all the time in the world to create a board, and obviously the faster your deck creates a board, the better your deck is. That's why most of the precons are kind of slow, and the best Commander decks, which are called level 10 Commander decks by the people, are the ones that kind of do 1 turn or 2 turn wins against 4 people, because they kind of play themselves, right? So, but normal people go with level 7 Commander decks, even though what's a level 7 is kind of blurry, because everyone says that their best deck is a level 7, and then you see that it's actually not like that, and it's kind of broken, and yada yada yada. So again, lots of artifacts, that's kind of the drill here. That's why it's so fascinating when you have a good Commander deck that is monocolored, because it means that you have 100 cards and you don't have the need to go multicolored. The game is balanced in a way so that multicolored creatures are more powerful by default, because it's not the same to charge you 2 and 1 black than it is to charge you 3 different colors, because it means that you have to have that specific mana on your board, right? That's kind of the basics of Magic the Gathering. That's why having a monocolor deck, even though you have some expensive creatures there that are charging you like 4 black, it doesn't really matter, because for black, all your mana is black, so it doesn't matter, right? So the funny thing here is that since the deck is mono black, this is the best deck in terms of mana, because all your colors are the same. Obviously, you have stuff like Myriad Landscape and stuff like that are like mandatory to have, but it doesn't really matter because you always need black mana. So unless you want to add some very expensive cards to this deck, like some tutors to get some specific cards that you want, which is kind of pointless because the whole point is milling, or you want to add cards that give you double mana, like double colorless or double black if you want to go that way. Maybe that's an option, but overall it's kind of pointless because, well, they even like they had so much space that they even had added an artifact land that just gives you a black just because it's like, oh, I mean, we need to add something. Like, see, like all this deck is black, and at the very least, well, they added different art to the Necrons because, well, they all just have 3 colors, so they added 3 different arts to the swamps because otherwise it will be super boring. Mind you, I don't know if you realized, but only the 2 of the 4 decks came with an extra card on the tokens, or with the tokens. Actually, no, the 3 of them, but not this one. So this one doesn't have an extra card in the tokens. That is a legendary creature that could be used as a commander. This one is just like, well, this is how you go. You have the Silent King. That's the only thing you need. And if not, you have Imhotep, and that's how you go, and period. Is this deck my favorite? Well, it is the most expensive in aftermarket, and it technically is the best out of the 4, mathematically as well, because it's very consistent. Like, it's a single color. Look at this black mana base, and that means that every mana you pull is mana that you're going to use, and the whole strategy is very flexible because it's artifact tribal and milling. So depending on what you want to do, switching between your 2 commanders actually changes how the deck operates quite a lot, because on one side you're going to just be milling yourself and putting artifact creature cards in your hand, so it's a way of fetching stuff, and on the other you're going to do a tribal artifact deck that gets +1/+1s on stuff. So I think this is the best one objectively. It's not my favorite because I don't like milling, I don't like being milled, and I don't like to mill myself pretty much, but that's the best one consistently. Now, in terms of rankings, how do they fit? Just by looking at, we're going to use their commanders as a reference point. So, well, this is the best one mathematically. That pretty much is clear. So the Necron dynasties. The Swarmlord to me and this whole deck is kind of boring. So this one is the last. That's pretty obvious. And between these 2, well, it really depends. If you want something that is more consistent, kind of, and more predictable, even though the mana base is kind of bad. Mind you, the mana base is kind of bad in all of this. Is better in this one, which actually should pull it a little bit to the left because the mana base is not that bad out of the box. But in terms of gameplay, I feel it's kind of boring unless you change to the secondary commander, but still is kind of boring in my humble opinion. Again, subject to preference. If you want to go just +1/+1, because if you play this one with the secondary commander, it's still a +1/+1 deck, so it's kind of the same, right? But at least it's more consistent. Just going with the primary commander, which is the way it's meant to be played, NVIDIA. The thing is, technically, this is the order to me. I will even switch these 2 because this one can be very funny, but very chaotic as well. Get it? Chaos, haha. So to me, that's the order on the decks. If I go on a personal, like this is like the most objective, well, actually, if I try to go most objective, it will be something like this. Like best, okay, worst in my opinion. And this is not accounting for financial value. I think that this kind of fits with financial value actually, but I think this is more expensive. So financial value will be something like this maybe, but trying to be the most objective, I think that something along these lines or this is the correct thing to do. If I go with personal preference, well, I think that because I'm a simp for the Emperor, so I guess that this will be first, then Chaos, then Necrons, and then the Swarmlord, both because of lore and mechanics. I don't like milling too much, so there is that, and I find this commander kind of whatever in its deck, and the deck is okay, but the commander is not doing much for me. You need to use Lucia for that. So this will be my personal preference, and yeah, so these are the Warhammer 40k commander decks. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you played with them, if you picked them up recently. I mean, they have been in the market for quite a while already. So I already played with them for some time. I just picked these ones to crack for the channel, and then I'm going to just give them to our friends so that we can have more fair games in the future, because you can tell I already have quite an advantage on Commander decks. But yeah, let me know what you thought. I hope that you had a good time, and if you want to see something else, something changed, or if you want me to read the inserts as an ASMR channel, please let me know in the comments. And as usual, this has been Packs and Recreation. Like, subscribe, and all the stuff that the cool kids say. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day, evening, night, whatever you are. Thank you, and peace.